Colin Farnsworth, followed by Eric Bays.
Hey there, my name is Colin Farnsworth. I am the Deputy Director of PANDA Oregon, and also here for the National Defense Authorization Act. And I think there's a lot of people in here, and maybe including some of the commissioners, that don't feel that the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, is a federal, is a matter for the counties to handle. And I'm here to say the opposite. It is something for the county to handle. Although it is a federal issue, and we should address it at the federal issue as well, the federal level, we have to address it here. And this is the reason is because you would point to the Supremacy Clause, saying that the NDAA falls under the Supremacy Clause, meaning that it is a supreme law of the land because it was passed by Congress and then signed by the President. But the truth is, it has to follow a certain procedure to fall under the Supremacy Clause. And I have it right here. Article 6, Clause 2 says, "This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance of shall be the supreme law of the land." And what we're saying is that this doesn't fall, the NDA does not fall under this because it was not made in pursuance of the Constitution. It does not, although it was passed by Congress and passed by the President, it does not follow the Constitution. And what Marbury versus Madison said in 1803, the Supreme Court case, said that all laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. And what this states here is that even laws that are passed that go through Congress and signed by the President can still be unconstitutional if they don't follow the Constitution and the framework there. The only federal judge to rule on the constitutionality of the NDAA said it was unconstitutional and violated the First, the Fifth, and 14th Amendment. And I would argue that you guys couldn't find anything where it gave the authority of the NDAA to find under the Constitution, under Article 1, Section 8, the enumeration of powers of Congress that gave them the right to get rid of due process for American citizens. And I would also argue that you couldn't find anywhere in Article 2, the presidential powers, that argues that he has the right to usurp, or she has the right to usurp, the judicial branch, stripping the rights of due process. And even for the worst crimes in our country that are treasonous crimes, even our Constitution says that that person would have the right to a trial and would have a right to be accused by their two witnesses. And the NDA bypasses that as well. To go over what specifically, going back to what the judge says, and saying that it violated the Fifth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment reads, "No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law." And more importantly, what brings it back down to the county level is the 14th Amendment that says no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty without due process of law. And so that includes you folks who have pledged an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States and Oregon. And that requires you to, at least the bare minimum, not to comply to the NDAA. And I think the resolution that we have a work session coming on at 10 o'clock should include a provision that says that the people in Lane County, especially the elected officials who have pledged an oath to defend the Constitution, shall not comply to the NDAA. So thank you very much, and let's bring this all the way to the state level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Eric Bays, followed by Shane Osborne.
My name is Eric Bays. I'm also here to speak against the National Defense Authorization Act. And I am a warrant officer who has served in the Oregon Army National Guard for 12 years. I'm not here on behalf of the Army. I'm here in my personal capacity. But I do want to say that every military attorney that I've spoken with on this subject has agreed that the United States does not have authority to indefinitely detain U.S. citizens without trial. But I think it is clear that President Obama believes that he does have that authority. He said as much. It's actually posted on a press release on the White House website. And all it takes is a time of some kind of financial crisis or environmental crisis where there's an emergency situation for him to potentially put those powers into use. And the troubling thing is that if he does put those powers into use, there's no opportunity for a court to ever rule that it's out of line because it never goes to a court. So when Congress passed this law, they dropped the ball and violated their oaths of office. When the President wrote it into law, he dropped the ball and violated his oath of office, and I encourage you to not drop the ball. It is entirely appropriate for state and local authorities to nullify federal laws when they get out of scope. It's happening all across the country. States and counties are nullifying this law, and I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bays. Shane Osborne, followed by Crystal Perkins.
Good morning, County Commissioners. I'm here to speak about the NDA too.
Please state your name.
Shane Osborne. I'm from Eugene. I wanted to bring up that on November 8th, 2013, Pete Sorensen had requested me to submit a resolution to Alex Kohler. The PANDA-endorsed resolution I sent I thought would be the best to fit the concerns of many groups involved with this effort in Lane County and have proper language and be effective model legislation for the state. This resolution had most recently been passed in the city of Albany, New York by a unanimous vote. I would like to have the board review that resolution for consideration of adopting. I also have a list of amendments of language that I would like for the board to consider incorporating in the drafted county resolution that's going to be included in the work session that better reflects the request of local political organizations and Lane County residents. I would also like to request that the board schedule a public hearing on this issue and that they set it in a manner where it's 3 to 5 weeks, so it gives everybody plenty of time out, and that it could possibly be in the evening so people would be off work, and that we would have an advance notice and an opportunity to give public input on the resolution before it's finalized. I would ask that myself and my colleague Colin Farnsworth have the opportunity to attend the work session on the NDAA today and present this and supporting material. Thank you for your time on this serious matter.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Crystal Perkins, followed by Mark Cosby.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Crystal Perkins. I'm a resident of Eugene and a first-year college student. I have come to speak out today because I have recently realized the real importance and power we have at a local level. So many people today continue to look for answers to come from the political gridlock in Washington, D.C., when many of those answers to our societal problems start right here with real action from our local representatives. If the people and their representatives were both bold enough to reclaim their real powers envisioned by our founding fathers for local sovereignty and local control, we'd begin to receive the change we want at a much faster pace. To quote James Madison, the father of the Constitution, in Federalist 51, powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. What we see today in the 21st century is a complete reversal of this statement, where the federal government has interpreted its own power to be numerous and indefinite, and the state's governments are few and defined. The NDAA allows for the indefinite detention of American citizens without a trial or legal representation, stripping suspected individuals of their 5th and 14th Amendments. States and communities must stand up and unite against a federal government which powers have become so limitless, even our country's most basic freedoms are being legislated away. Please pass a resolution that states that Section 1021 and 1022 clearly violate the Constitution and that the people of Lane County, therefore, will not comply or assist with the implementation of the law. Also, and more importantly, please ask our state legislators to pass state legislation that prohibits any Oregon residents from being detained under the NDAA. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Mark Cosby, followed by Joe Ray Perkins.
Hi, we meet again. I'm from East Lane County, and I'm here to speak out against the act of the NDAA. It's an opportunity that you guys have to do something positive and stand with the citizens to stand against NDAA. The violation of trust that has happened by using a basic package to keep funding our defense, and that they take and they stick egregious attacks on our constitutional rights into that package has been very offending to me. And I don't have to bring up what happened in 1994 around here, you know, but government needs to work on the trust of the people, and they need to show good faith. And so I hope that you guys will take the opportunity to take this stand and stand with the people and defend our rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cosby. Joe Ray Perkins, followed by Jennifer Frenzer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Ray Perkins. I actually live in Albany, and I am a candidate for the U.S. Senate. No relations to Miss Crystal Perkins over here. I'm here in regards to the NDA, specifically sections 1021 and 1022. And I want to thank each of you for stepping up and serving Lane County. And I know when you become a public official, your life changes and everything that you say and do is under scrutiny. I sent out an email the other day and I said the Lane County Commissioners appear to be weakening your constitutional rights. And I was taken to task on that word appear. And as I thought about it over the last 30-some odd hours, I went, you know, that's really what's going on here, is nothing that's intentional. And that is why I'm here to ask for you to take a closer look at the verbiage in the resolution. Let's tighten it up so that there is no appearance where anything could be weakened on our constitutional rights. Although I don't live in Lane County, if something were to happen and I happen to be in Lane County, the way that 1021, 1022 is written, I could be arrested because it's so nebulous. That is not what our founders intended. Our founders were concerned about this type of tyranny, to where the government can tell the people what to do at any time. But what about our rights? We have rights, unalienable rights. We have rights that are afforded to us as citizens in each sovereign state. So I'm asking you that as you look at this resolution to make sure that there is no wiggle room, there is no ambiguity, so there is no appearance of weakening anybody's constitutional rights. Let's tighten up the words, and that's really what's been going on. And if you look at 1022, where the President of the United States is given unilateral decision, he doesn't have to have anybody else's assistance in saying, hey, we need to implement this as wrong. Used to be the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, plus, sorry, I don't remember the other one, but it was three parties that had to come to the decision to declare that this is a threat of war and that these people could be arrested. Let's not go back to McCarthyism. Let's not go back to World War II, where Japanese citizens were detained simply because they were of Asian descent. Let's make sure there is absolutely no wiggle room. Let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Jennifer Frenzer, followed by Scott Perret.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jennifer Frenzer. Thank you for the forum, and thanks for taking the time to consider this rather unique issue for county commissioners. I think a few folks have laid out the reason why we've come to the county with this request. In California, actually, the constituents represented by the local levels of government were able to motivate the state legislature to actually take a stand against this. Ultimately, that's our goal too. Well, ultimately, we'd really like to have these two provisions repealed by the federal government. So one of the things that I also wanted to point out today is that you do have a room of people who represent political views across the spectrum. And that's the other thing that's pretty unique about this. And there's folks here who may disagree, but one thing on certain issues, but on one thing we do agree is that our ability to exercise our First Amendment rights and to be sure that we have Fifth Amendment rights is crucial to participating in our democracy. This is what makes our government unique and strong. This is something about our nation that we hold dear for a good reason. It's what makes us function as a citizen's body and as a nation. So the Bill of Rights, protects, but it also helps determine what that civic engagement is with government. So it's very critical to all of us here. People feel it very strongly. Even if it seems as though I think there might be the impression that this is something we shouldn't be so concerned about. And when I read the resolution that was drafted for you to review, I get the sense that the drafter felt like this was something we don't need to be too worried about. But I think they were misinformed. And I'm concerned that you haven't been receiving the information you need to be fully informed about this issue and about why it's the gravity of it for so many of us. And so I would like to see a public hearing. I would like to see sufficient notice for that hearing so that more public can be involved, and at a time in the evening when folks can come down and talk to you and share with their perspectives, and that you take advantage of the resources that Shane and Colin have offered to you during your work session today. I think there was materials that were supposed to be in your packages that weren't forwarded perhaps, but if you could have access to that and access to the resources to change the language. I think the City of Albany passed a resolution that had much more firm language, and please consider something more strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Frenzer. Scott Perret, followed by Zachary Hagan.
Scotty Perry, Eugene. I'm also here to speak about the NDAA. The scope of what we're discussing here is profound and far-reaching, and I think that first and foremost, the best course of action presently would be to schedule a public hearing in order that you guys might all have the sufficient time and information that would allow you the full consideration that this issue demands, as well as to provide the crucial public input on such an urgent matter as this, because it does seem that the language of the resolution as it stands now demonstrates a palpable lack of the preparation and the process needed to give this issue the full attention necessary in order to arrive at any meaningful assertion or protection against what is indeed a grave threat to our liberties, especially those of us who do not shy away from the very type of dissent which is oftentimes the last line of defense against tyranny and corruption. The current iteration of the NDAA is complex and would bear much inspection and examination, but the bottom line is that any opening to any interpretation that would find American citizens on domestic soil subject to imprisonment without due process is both unacceptable and unconstitutional. And in light of the oaths that our leaders on the local, state, and federal level have taken to uphold our Constitution, it becomes not only within the purview of all of our elected officials, but rather their duty and their imperative to do whatever is within their and your power to actively resist anything that breaches that Constitution of this land. I might remind that these sort of transgressions are not merely speculative. They indeed have historical context. They have transpired before. One need only hearken back to 1942 when over 100,000 residents in the U.S. were forcibly detained without due process, not even because of any political protest or partisanship, but merely because of their heritage. Many of them were rounded up in this very community. We even have a memorial to what they suffered only a block or two away from here. And over 62% of these people were American citizens. So this is a very serious matter, and we need serious language in the stand that we are to collectively take against it. The following are but the most urgent of the crucial points that must be included in any meaningful resolution. One, we need to instruct all public agencies in Lane County to decline requests to participate in the implementation of the NDAA. Two, we as a county need to ask our state legislators to pass legislation that prohibits Oregon residents from being detained under the NDAA or any similar authority. Three, we need to specifically encourage and request that the county sheriff upholds his oath to serve and protect the Oregon and U.S. constitutions and to protect the people in Lane County from any attempts to implement the NDAA or any other law that conflicts with any of the constitutional rights of the people. And four, we need to have protocol in place that would actively protect Lane County citizens if and when the NDAA is implemented. Again, I would ask that a public hearing be scheduled on this matter, and I might add that it would behoove the county greatly to consult a constitutional attorney on this issue as well. And as far as today's work session goes, I would ask also that Shane and Colin be included in the proceedings, or at the very least have their materials included in the packages considered, because once again it does seem that the Commission is lacking some of the most salient, relevant information on the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perry. Our final speaker signed up is Zachary Hagan. If any others wish to sign up, you can do so at this time.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Zachary Hagan, and I live in Cresswell. I'm the County Coordinator for the Lane County Chapter of Oath Keepers. I've served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. I'm currently serving in the Oregon National Guard. Today, we are here to discuss the drafted resolution you'll be presented by your staff at the work session. Though we thank the Commissioners for their taking up of this very serious matter, simply lobbying our state legislators and adopting a resolution at which best shows disagreement is simply not enough when Washington has gotten so disconnected from the people and our voices are no longer heard. To be frank, gentlemen, we need to know that you are going to uphold your oath of office. We need to know that you will stand firm on your principles. Like you, I hold a position of public service. Like you, I must risk my life, be it physical or political, in the name of American principles. I have faith in the foundation I fight on. With political support, signed, committed, and growing on this issue in Lane County, you should too. We want the commissioners to change the language of the drafted resolution to match that what has been asked of them. We would also like the board to agree to a public hearing before making final decision on proposed changes. We would want to be notified 3 to 5 weeks in advance to the date so we may properly organize in an hour which the average working citizen could attend, not like today. Gentlemen, we are not going away. We will not be appeased by some lightweight language that does not blatantly secure our rights and freedoms. Furthermore, we would like the county sheriff to be present and involved. The sheriff is the highest law in his respective jurisdiction and needs to be aware and ready to take any necessary actions to protect his constituents. Here today we have members from political groups that range from the far left to the far right and everything in between. We are gathered here under this roof, united together, side by side, fighting for the same cause. We are united as we the people to stand for our rights and liberties, and to show support for our elected officials in creating a resolution of not only non-compliance but also interposition. I would also like to request that our PANDA representatives Shane Osmond and Collins Farnsworth be given the opportunity to present our material at the county work session as well. Thank you, commissioners, for your time and service.
Thank you. We have 4 more speakers signed up. First being Fergus McLean, followed by Frank Walker. Mr. McLean.
Commissioners, good morning. My name is Fergus McLean. I live in Dexter. I'd like to thank you for bringing this topic to your agenda. Your busy schedule, you have a lot of weighty matters, and I'd also like to personally thank you for your public service. I know it's a challenge at times. I'm sure it has its rewards as well, or who would do it. I am in support of PANDA and what you've heard today about the NDAA. Besides being a member of Occupy Eugene, I am also an oath keeper, and I take my oath seriously, and I'm sure you do too. I'm actually here to talk on a related issue without trying to detract from the importance of the NDAA, which is just coincidentally, February 11th today has been declared the day we fight back against national surveillance by the NSA. And Occupy Eugene has provided a press release which staff will give to you. Discussions like this are happening all around the country. There's a lot of concern over the proper administration of our Constitution and fundamental discussion about the role of government that's happening. In January, the House came within 12 votes of defunding the NSA surveillance program. The President's own personally appointed advisory committee has recommended termination of surveillance. It's an important discussion, and today we have on our website, occupyeugenemedia.org, a banner that you can go to and just click and send support to Washington for the USA Freedom Act, which has been proposed by Representative Sensenbrenner and Senator Leahy. Representative Sensenbrenner was one of the prime authors of the Patriot Act, and he feels that Section 215 of the Patriot Act is being badly abused by the NSA and has pledged to cut off funding to the NSA if these abuses are not corrected. So if you go to occupyeugenemedia.org or thedaywefightback.org, you can click and send a message to Washington in support of the USA Freedom Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Frank Walker, followed by Liam Sherlock.
Frank Walker, Eugene, Oregon. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak. I see that your information officer has already passed this document out to you. I know you're struggling now with wording in the resolution that you might make about the 1021 and 1022, and I'd like to read portions of this from the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association. It's their resolution that they made at the Las Vegas conference they had. The people of the United States are and have a right to be free and independent. As such, they must be free from infringement on the right to keep and bear arms, unreasonable search and seizures, and unlawful detainments. Therefore, in order to protect the American people, be it resolved that the following abuses will not be allowed. I will not read them all, just the ones I think pertain to the National Defense Authorization Act. They will inspection of persons or property without probable cause and constitutionally compliant warrants. The detainment or search of citizens without probable cause and due process. Arrests with continued incarceration without charge and due process. And be it further resolved, all actions by the federal government and its agents will conform strictly and implicitly with the principles expressed within the United States Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. There is no greater obligation or responsibility of any government officer than to protect the rights of the people. Thus, any conduct contrary to the United States Constitution, Declaration of Independence, or the Bill of Rights will be dealt with as unlawful. I fully support others that have spoken today. I hope you will write a very strong resolution about this matter.
Peace Officers Association. It's their resolution that they made at the Las Vegas conference they had. The people of the United States are and have a right to be free and independent.